main work going? When I ask you that question, what do you think of? Witnessing? You're teaching your class? Work? How is the main work going? I'm talking about in your life, the main work. They used to have years ago, I don't know if they still have, but a woman who would be pregnant, they'd have an arrow down here, under construction, the main work is in us. He who began, Paul said, I could hear him teaching here, he tapped his finger here, Philippians 1:6. I'm confident of this very thing. What are you confident about, Paul? I mean, he was a murderer. He said, I'm confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will bring it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. I always related things like that as end times, or like down the road a ways. But when you go up into your room and you pray, do it unto the Lord and He'll reward you. I always thought that was when you get to heaven. When you give to the needy, don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing, and I'll reward you. But I believe it's talking about rewarding you while you're on the earth, and that reward is His character, His likeness. And He wants to complete this work in us. And it's the yoke is for two. God doesn't plow a field by Himself. Got a wonderful chance Easter morning, well, Friday, Good Friday service to be down in Allegheny County Jail, and then Easter morning to be at jail, and it was a good response. I crossed over the West Aliquippa Bridge for 10 years. I went to the right there, worked at J&L there. I went to the left there. And that morning I was reminded when I was coming to work one day, this is back in the late 70s, I was driving down a road and some guy came up and he was revving his car up and kind of shot past me there, and his choke or something stuck in his car. And when we got to work, I don't know, his car fouled up or something like that, and he actually came to me and he said, "You're the reason, you're the fault that caused you have that problem." He was serious. He said, "You're the reason." We always want to blame everybody else. It's that coworker, it's that boss you give me, or it's that place of employment you give me, or it's that neighbor I can't stand. The Lord allows things in our life to rub us the right way. All things, God, Paul said, and we know. See, you have to learn this, knowing this, that God works all things together for good to those who are following this path, this pattern of loving Him. That's a condition with a promise. I seem to hit on that verse every time I come here. But it's a powerful verse. Every Christian wants to claim that verse. But I believe it's talking about to the Christians meeting the condition, and the condition is one who's loving the Lord, walking down His pathway. It's not just, I hear everything just works together for good when they're out making all these choices out there. I don't see that. But when you're following His purposes, everything and anything, God is working good in you, intrinsic good. It isn't always outward good. It's the inward good. That's what He's after. But He's trying to work this work in you. But let's start out in John chapter 15 tonight. John chapter 15. I do want to talk a little bit about trials, but that's John chapter 15. This is the familiar scripture where Jesus is talking to His disciples, to His own. Not talking to the world, He's talking to His own here. John chapter 15, I'm the vine, my Father's the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, He taketh away. Isn't that something? There's branches in Him that's not bearing fruit. You can be a Christian and yet not abiding in Him. You know that. I just got done teaching the book of Ruth, and Elimelech, in the book of Ruth starts out, he was in a famine, in a hard time, and he moved outside the land, and he stayed out there. He followed his own mind. He went out, and the death occurs. You can die as a Christian. I'm not talking about going to hell. I'm talking about in your relationship. Jonah said, "I do well to be unlike you, Lord. I do well to be angry, even to the point of death." He was still prophesying. Jonah was still prophesying. I about shocked a guy at work. I said, it takes two. God can't, the God of all of creation, this is a willing service. He doesn't put your hand behind your back and say, "Uncle." It's a willing service. He came to a place where Jonah says, I do well to be the way I am, and you're not changing me. So the book ends. The name of the book is not the Ninevites. I know the whole town repented, but that's not the issue. The issue is he's a prophet. I believe God sent Jonah there for Jonah's sake and to use him. But the name of the book, always remember, it's Jonah, not the Ninevites. Jonah never came into God's heart. He never came into his salvation. And that's, God will work anything and everything to try to work that into him, but he might do well to be unlike you. God, no, Jonah, I love you, Jonah. But John chapter 15, branches in me that bears not fruit, he takes away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Wow. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it. So in other words, if you have some resemblance of Jesus, if you're looking like Him, if you're acting like Him, you're giving God something to work with in your life. And He says, I'm going to prune you some more. I'm going to prune you. I'm going to, as a farmer would thresh, the old threshing, they would thresh, getting the useless chaff off the good grain, the threshing process. And here's a case here where every branch that bears fruit, He's going to purge it, prune it. He's after more fruit. He's after more character. Let's put the word Christian here. For every Christian that bears fruit, He prunes it or purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Every branch. So in other words, if you're going to live godly, you heard me say before, a dealer in diamonds, if he sees a diamond's got some potential, he'll cut and work and spend a lot of time with it because it's got some potential. But if he sees a rock not worth much, he's not going to spend much time with it. You know what I'm saying? And, a gardener, he finds a nice tree that's got some potential, spend a lot of time with it. God's favorites. God sent Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. He loved these three. He sent them an extraordinary trial. We talked about that last time. He loved them. So we have to, if you live a godly life and live for Him, you're not going to be no stranger to trials. Expect them. God, we sing amiss, by the way. I believe we sing amiss. Not just pray amiss like the Scripture says. We sing amiss. Oh, how I love Jesus, and oh, I love Jesus. We sing all these songs. Does that mean we love Jesus? That's not what the Bible says. It says, He that hath my commands and keepeth them, it's this one that loves me. And this one that loves me, I'm going to love him, my Father's going to love him, and we're going to manifest ourselves in him and to him. Oh, I love Jesus. That doesn't mean you love him. You have to obey him. Obedience is, brought into the promised land. Coming to church every time the doors are open don't bring you into the abundant life. Fasting and praying for hours every day don't bring you the abundant life. Doing all these religious things out here, works, don't bring you to the abundant life. Are you against it? Not at all. But you have to obey the Lord. Obedience is better than sacrifice. You can give all these offerings and sacrifices. The Lord says, this stinks. I want you. I want your life. And I said before, when I was young, for years I said, at 13, I thought I gave my heart to the Lord at 13. I didn't give my heart to the Lord. I got saved. I gave Him my sin and He took it. But when you give Him your heart, you give Him your life. I didn't give Him my life till I was 28 years old. And there's a big difference. Many get saved. I'm saved. But He's wanting you to follow Him. And we follow Him along the seashores and feeding the 5,000. Where are you going? I'm going to the cross. Follow me. Many turn and walk no more with them. I get Christians mad at me at work sometimes at the Bible study. Because my main focus is the Christian. That's Paul's letters are to the Christian. This John 15 is to the Christian. And I know an unbeliever can pick the Bible up and read it and get saved. God's problem in the Old Testament, Mike, wasn't the Perizzites, the Amorites, the Canaanites. It was the Israelites. They kept turning away from God. The Judges, the cycle book. long as they follow the judge, they had peace in the land. As long as the judge followed the Lord, they followed the judge, they had peace in the land. But the judge would die, they turn out of the way and cry out. God was there again. I remember reading that book years ago and just saying, just obey. Just obey. So he's talking about here in verses 4 and 5, abide in me. And do abide. This is the yoke. Picture an old-fashioned yoke, two in a yoke. If you abide in me, and I abide in you, that's relationship. As a branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can you. You can't do that. You can't become like Christ on your own. You've got to remain in the power source. You abide in me, and I like, these are comeback verses, I call them. Verse 5, he says the same thing. I'm the vine, you're the branches. He that abideth in me presently, and I in him, the same will bring forth much fruit. Without me, you cannot do nothing. You can't look up in a tree and see great big apple trees hanging off a tree limb, and it'd be separated from the trunk. It's an impossibility. You know, we must stay in. We must stay in the relationship with Christ. Not being separated. But getting back to praying and missing, I mean, we can sing all these songs. You know, and Lord, we sing at church, make me humble in our church. And Brenda looked over at me the other day and she said, or a couple weeks ago, and she said, does people know what they're singing? This was a couple months ago. Make me humble? Well, how do you think he's going to make you humble? He's going to take you through a few things. Humiliation, you know, humus, that word means dirt, humus, dirt. You know that when you get saved, you know where He's wanting to take you, don't you? I want to do great exploits for you, Lord, up here. And the Lord says, I'm not up here. I'm going down here. I'm going down here. I had a Bible school teacher said, the whole time he's in Bible school, he tried to connect with his teacher, and it couldn't seem like he connected. He realized after a number of years sitting under his teacher was down on the floor. It's hard to fall off the floor. The greatest place to live the Christian life is as low as you can get on the floor. And we need help many times getting down there. The Lord's knocked me down a few, and it's been good. The goal for all of us, I can tell you what it is. It's biblical to be like Jesus. That's the goal. The methods now is going to be different in every one of our lives. He's got a big toolbox. He's a master builder. There's a right tool for every job. Tony Delmonico told me that one. There's a right tool for every job. He knows what he's doing. Isaiah 54 says, "Oh, thou afflicted and not comforted, tossed with tempest, I'm going to build. I'm going to build foundation. I'm going to build windows and borders and a gate. I'm building a spiritual house. Where at? You. In righteousness you'll be established. In staying right. In staying right. In midst of the tempest and the storm and all the problems, you're not murmuring, complaining, oh, why? You know, the Lord showed me a couple weeks ago, we got amnesia.
Amen.
We got amnesia. We really do. They went through the Red Sea and a couple days later, remember what I said, murmur and complain? It's nice when the Holy Spirit gives you a definition. I don't have to look it up. Murmuring and complaining is unbelief coming up out of the heart. We don't believe. We don't believe God, that He's going to work good in me in the situation. If we believe that, we wouldn't be murmuring and complaining. We forget. I always said it would be good at work. Some guys, I go today, oh, terrible day, you know. He comes around, he likes me, you know, I mean, I like him too. Wouldn't it be neat if we could take the interview process 30, 40 years ago when these guys were hired, me included, and get a taping, a video of the interview? I would do anything for this job. I'll run through walls, I'll take Monday and Friday off, and we get a couple years down the road and I'm glad God, He puts up with what? He's big enough, He can handle that, but you know, He doesn't want me to murmur and complain about anything. And I see that being a major sin in the Bible. And somehow we think we categorize sin, murder, adultery, hating, all these things. But I see that murmuring and complaining is right there. It's listed in them sins in Corinthians, where the Old Testament, they murmured, complained, and Paul is saying, I don't want you to be like them. You know, I don't want you to be like them. So this whole thing in verse 8, going down here, it says, "Here is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, so so shall you be my disciples. How is God glorified? You bear much character. That you look like Jesus. Do you know, Christian, and all because you're saved, born again, doesn't mean 30 years from now, that you just wake up one day and you're Christ-like. Magic wand, and there it is. I don't see that in Scripture at all. You've got to walk this thing out. John says, I got no greater joy than my children are walking in the truth, because I know if they're walking in the truth. I went to my nephew's football game, Devon, and playoff game. This was years ago, and I got up in the stands there. His dad, Scott, was a coach, and I remember there was a jump pass over the middle, like first play of the game, and they hit my nephew with a jump pass, and he's running down the sidelines for a touchdown, and I'm not looking at him. All I'm seeing is father like this. Yes! 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 I'm looking at his father. I'm not looking at him running down the goal. Now he's looking at his son staying in bounds, headed towards the goal. And his father's saying, yes! 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 And I got the image what John is saying. I got no greater joy than know my children are walking in the boundaries, headed towards the goal. What's the goal? Jesus. Being like Him, being conformed to His image. You got me fired up here. I'm excited. There's nothing outside that touches me. There's nothing out there that satisfies. There's nothing out there, is there, Mike? You know, there's nothing out there that it's all. Anything outside of Christ is vanity. It's all vanity. It's all a lie. It's you know, what are we giving ourselves to? What are we thinking about? What are we minding? All these things. But you know, if you're a Christian, you have a desire for the Lord. You're gonna go through some things. The Lord loves you too much to leave you the way you are. He's a master builder. Let's go to Hebrews 12. That this is becoming bearing much fruit. If you bear fruit, Christian, He's going to prune you. You'll bear more fruit. That's what He's after. That's what He's after. Hebrews 12. Hebrews 12. Verse 5, it says, my son, don't despise the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when you rebuke to Him. Now, chastening in punishment, this is not punishment. You know, did you ever be punished as a child? You're punished. The chastening is not punishment, it's correction. There was a guy 60 years old, and he was a Christian, he was bragging. He said, I've never been sick a day in my life. We went through 3 months of sickness, and he realized, he said, boy, I'm not an illegitimate child after all. The Lord has chastened me. He's corrected me. He's brought me down a couple notches. The chastening of the Lord, don't despise it. It says here in verse 6, whom the Lord loveth, He chasteneth. Whom the Lord loves, He chasteneth, and scourges every son whom He receives. If you endure chastening, God deals with you with sons. What son is whom the Father chastens not? If you be without chastisement, whereof all you partakers, and you are illegitimate and not sons. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Didn't you revere your father, your earthly fathers? You obeyed them the majority of the time. You know, you listen to them. How much more than your heavenly Father, who doesn't make any mistakes, who's always 100% correct, who's perfect, and live. In verse 10, I told you that story. He's sitting right here. You know, and I'll share it again for some of you who weren't here. But when I was in 2nd grade, I got a paddle in school. And the teacher told us clearly in Patterson Elementary, anybody pushes in line, you know, you're getting a paddle, no questions asked. Well, we got in line that day, and this tattletale was in front of me. And this girl, I remember who both of them were, I've forgiven them. But they pushed me, and I pushed me into the tattletale, and this teacher didn't want to hear anything about it. I went in, and Mrs. Cornelius, I can tell you the teacher too, whack! And the Lester rule was, if you got paddling in school, you got paddling at home. It wasn't just an isolated case, was it? And I had a tattletale. I thought he was my buddy walking down home. Ray Russell. I thought he was my buddy. My dad's outside. Bad time to be outside. We're walking home, and he said, "Glenn got a paddling today." My father was imperfect. I needed more whippings than what I got. I was imperfect. I made mistakes. But your Heavenly Father makes no mistakes. He makes none. That's what he's basically saying here. He makes no, for a few days they chased us after their own pleasure, but he is for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Because you go through things don't mean you're going to profit by it. You can go through things and be worse off. But he's calling us to holiness, not happiness. Oh, I'm happy, clappy. It's happy, clappy life. I don't believe he just walked around like it. I don't believe no. He had joy, enduring the cross, but I don't believe it said he was a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief. I don't believe he walked around with some plastic smile. He's calling you to holiness. Be holy as I am holy. And you will be joyful as you follow his path. But his happy, clappy, and all this stuff here, that we're not going to go through some things. I mean, it's through much tribulation you enter the kingdom of God. You enter the kingdom of God while you're on the earth. The Bible talks about the kingdom of heaven, and it talks about the kingdom of God while you're on the earth. And we're going to look at a man by the name of Job, which you all know. He went through much tribulation, but he entered the kingdom of God. No chastening for the present time is joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. Those who exercise thereby. So it's, let's turn to Job. Job chapter 1. Right before Psalms. God is setting up Job here. There's a lot of work that's went on in Job before Job 1 takes place. This is God's testimony of Job. He was the greatest man in the East. He was the greatest man. I mean, there was none like him, none like his servant Job. And, we see in Job chapter 1 here, we're going to start reading here. I'm not reading all this, but he was a perfect and upright man who feared God, and that word perfect, we go on to different perfections. Let us go on, the Hebrew writer says, to perfection. He was perfect in relationship, but he had not been perfected yet. The Lord wants us to be perfect and upright in relationship, and yet continue to love him and confess our sins. But God had blessed him outwardly, born with him 7 sons, 3 daughters, his substance 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, she-asses, great household. He was the greatest man of all the men of the East. His sons went and feasted in their houses every day. They sent and called for their sisters, ate, drank with them. Verse 5, this is Job as a godly father there. He is sacrificing them in verse 5 here continually. He said, it may be that my family has sinned. He had a heart for his kids. Had desires for them. It may be my sons that have cursed you. Verse 6, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. The Lord said unto Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered the Lord, from going up and down on the earth, and walking up and down on it. Verse 8, the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? Who initiated this trial? God did. God initiated this trial. Don't you want to pick on a lukewarm Christian? Don't you want to pick on a carnal Christian? Why would you pick on the greatest man in the East? There was none like him. Come here. Hey, Satan, come on over. Come on over. What do you think of my servant over there? There's none like him. He's perfect and upright. He fears God, hates evil. Satan says, well, you blessed him. No wonder he fears you. You've got a hedge about him. I can't get into him. You've got a hedge about him. Then you hedge him all in. You blessed him. The prosperity, you blessed him. No wonder he loves you. You've given him everything. Just put forth thy hand and touch all that he hath, and he'll curse you to your face. Lord said unto Satan, and God is always in control. don't ever dwell on the part of the enemy here, Satan. God is always in control. The Lord said unto Satan, well, okay, go ahead. All that he hath is in thy power, only himself you cannot put a finger on. I'll give you so much and that's it. You know, Satan is the agent there. We get so focused on Satan. You know, if you take a fork and maybe you have a potato on the oven there or on the whatever it is, and you take a fork and jab that potato and you pull it out of the oven. Who pulled it out of the oven? Was it the fork or was it you? You know, the fork is the agent. You know, but you know, bringing it out of the oven there. So I mean, it's and here it is. All this is going on here. I want to go back to verse. Now there's a couple of trains of thought here in verse 6. A couple of camps on this. Whether this is going on in heaven here, the sons of God, or, you know, we're presenting ourselves right now before God. You know that. We're here sitting before Him. Job daily gave sacrifices before God daily. And whatever it is, don't get hung up on that. I'm more of persuasion that this Job is one of these sons of God here that's sacrificing daily. And but don't get hung up on that. But that word among there in verse 6, that means to sever. Satan has one thing in mind: to sever you from the life source. He comes to sever. And you know, that's you see that also in chapter 2, in round 2 there, verse 1, it says, same thing, when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to sever. Do you know that Satan tried everything he could to sever the Lord from going to the cross? You know, all along the way, and you know, he submitted himself to the devil at that one place because God permitted it. You know, Satan said, hey, I'll give you all these kingdoms, I'll give you all this. Don't go to the cross. You don't have to do this. And all the way through his earthly life, save your life, save your life. Even when he's on the cross. Even when he's on the cross, people are in the spirit of satanic. Save yourself, even a thief. Save yourself, save us if you're the Christ. Save us. Get down off the cross. Satan wants to sever you from your relationship with Christ. That's what he's after, to sever you from the life source. So you won't ever come into fruition. You won't become Christ-like. He wants to sever you. Jesus is walking along and he's telling Peter, I'm going to the cross. And Peter says, oh no. He rebukes the Lord. You're not going to the cross. You're not going to the cross. And Jesus looked at him and said, get behind me, Satan. And you know what the Lord showed me in that is when we are minding earthly things above our heavenly kingdom, that's satanic. When we are seeking our earthly kingdom, our earthly realm, ahead of seeking God's kingdom first, that's satanic. Who bewitched you? Who put a spell on you? It says in Galatians there, you're so quickly removed from Him, the relationship. Bewitched you, put a spell on you. You started out well. That word savoreth, where Jesus said, you savoreth not the things that are God, but the things of man. I looked that word up and it says, to interest oneself, to mind, to think about. You know, Peter's minding the earth. Paul, it causes him to weep in Philippians 3. He's not weeping over the world. Read the Bible. Nehemiah is weeping over the wall being broken down. God's people. Jeremiah is a weeping prophet. Jesus is weeping over Jerusalem. Paul is weeping in Philippians 3, not over the world. He's weeping over the Christians who are enemies of the cross of Christ. They come so far, they're saved, but they're not coming to the cross, losing your life, living for Him. He wants to erase your earthly life, that you live only for Him. That doesn't make sense. That's one of the most revolutionary things. And she's sitting back there in 1985 when I lost my job in the mill. I come home and I said, and I'd been a Christian at 13 years old, but I didn't live for the Lord. From 13 to 20, I lived for Glenn. And I come home and I remember got out my Bible, opened. I had 3 little kids, lived on Blackhawk Road there. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm not handy. I'm not smart. I know college degree. The only degree I have is obedience to Christ. The only master's degree I have is from the Master. You know that's all you need? Obedience to Christ. A master's degree from the Master. Obey the Spirit of God. He's your best teacher. But I remember saying to my wife, I said, look, I was worried about money. He took me to Matthew chapter 6, and he says, don't worry about money. You talk about it coming off the page. Take no thought for your life. What? Take no thought for your life. He's not saying your life don't matter. He's saying your life and all your clothes and money, that's all secondary, but you're to be about my business first. Seek my kingdom first. I'll have everything you need. One of the most revolutionary things. I was always taught, if you don't take care of yourself, no one else will. Jesus turns it around. He says, seek my kingdom first. Be about my business first. And I'll take care of these things over here. And He's been faithful to do every one. He's been faithful. He's a faithful Creator. Faithful Father. Satan would have, Job would have rebuked Satan. I rebuke you, get out of here. Job would have said, Satan would have said, I have permission to be here. By your God, I have permission to be here. We want to rebuke the devil. I don't pay attention to him. Submit to God, and you rebuke the devil. I don't pay attention to him. I submit to God. So you submit to God, you're rebuking him. I don't pay him too much mind. He's on a chain. It doesn't bother me at all. And I have to tell the story. I told it overseas, but you know, my father, he's sitting there, but I was a big tease of my sisters, and I would, you know, when I was bad, I said I didn't get enough whippings, but I would go underneath my bunk bed. I'm maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, you know, and my dad couldn't reach me underneath there. I could still see him underneath. He'd get down like this, and I'm not going to take these off because I might lose my drawers here. But he would open the bell all the way, and he would lay down. He's too big. He couldn't reach me. I could still see him slide that bell underneath there. I got him when I got out of there. But he couldn't reach me. I'm in a safe place. Under his wings. You know, we have refuge. It's a good, safe place. I don't worry about that. So round one here is basically what Satan is coming at him here. You blessed him. You blessed him because you provided everything for him. No wonder he loves you. So does Job value possessions more than God? Or does Job value God more than possessions? Satan's well aware I love to get into him. He looks the most like you on the earth. He's doing great damage in these high places. I'd love to get at him. I'd love to get at him. He's not worried about the drunk out there, the lukewarm Christian. If you know what I'm saying. God is in complete control here. See in verse 12 there again that, you know, He gave power. Let's go to Luke 22 real quick. Luke 22. Luke 22, verse 31. The Lord saying this to Simon Peter. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. That word desire means begging. The Lord said, hey, Peter, Satan is begging that get into you. He's begging. Can I get him? Can I have him? Let me get him. Let me have him. He's begging him. And the Lord says, I rebuked him. Is that what the Lord says here? He says, no. He's wanting to sift you as wheat. But I prayed for you that your faith fail not. See, He uses him. He uses him to further His purposes. He uses him. And when you are converted, after you continue to go through this inferno, see, Job is going through refining fire. God's trying to get the dross more out of him through all these trials. He's the farmer, you know, with the pruning, and the gardener with all that stuff and pruning, and you know, when you are converted, strengthen your brother. And I want to strengthen you with His word, because you see, you go through some things, you see some things. I want to give you some nuggets to encourage you along. My motive is to give, to encourage, to strengthen. And so So here he is, round one there. Satan wastes no time after God gives him the okay. It reminds me of Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel chapter 1. Nebuchadnezzar wasted no time to put his plan in place. You know, he was going to get all the young men of specimen and train them and teach them, and then they were going to go back and infiltrate all the Israelites. You know, he wastes no time. But verse 13, boy, you talk about, and we read these things and we're so far removed about what actually took place in these, you know, the Sabaeans, verse 15, slayed the servants and took things, and the fire of God, verse 16, fell from heaven, burnt the sheep, the servants. Verse 17, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands, fell upon the camels, carried away, slain the servants with the edge of the sword. Verse 18, like I said, God said, you can take everything he's got, just don't lay a hand on him. While he was speaking, there came another, thy sons, thy daughters were eating, drinking in their elder brother's house. A great wind came, smote the 4 corners, all of them are dead. Verse 20, then Job arose, rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground and worshipped. And he didn't do this with a smile on his face. And he said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord had taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Round one, Job. And he didn't say it in a sarcastic manner, because I believe that's why verse 22 is there. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Did you ever charge God foolishly? Why'd you do that? Or charge God foolishly. You know, this makes no sense from an earthly view. No sense at all. It's like a thief going into a jewelry store. And he goes in after hours there, and the owner happens to be in there in the front room, and he comes out, he hears some noise, he comes out, and the two meet in the back room, and the owner says, what are you doing here? He said, I'm here to try to steal your most expensive gem here. And the owner says, well, here, let me help you. It's up in the front underneath the counter here. Here's the keys. Here's the keys. Go ahead, help yourself. This makes no sense. It makes no sense in the natural, from an earthly perspective. Many things make no sense. You can't lean on this. This is an infirmity. Cut your head off and follow the Lord. Lean not on your own thinking. In all ways acknowledge Him, and He'll guide your path. You got to trust. You're either doing one or the other. You're either trusting God with your whole heart, or you're leaning on your own understanding. And that's an enmity against God, the natural mind. It's an infirmity. I remember in this book here that Job never ever blames anybody else but God. He said, the Lord gave, the Lord takes. God is setting Job up here. God is setting Job up. The Lord gave, the Lord taketh away. He didn't say, them Chaldeans, I'm getting evil with them, or them Sabaeans, or I'm getting evil with that, or that devil. That devil did it to me. That's amazing. And even all his friends, even Job's wife, if I go that far, they saw God as totally sovereign. They were twisted theology there, and well, you must have sinned and all these things, but one thing they had in common, that God was sovereign always. God is totally sovereign. He's totally sovereign here. Never blamed anybody else. I had a car stolen one time, or he had a car stolen. Man, I'm driving all over the place, certain places, you know, looking around. And round 2 takes place. Round 1, Job wins. Round 2, Satan comes again among them to sever. Where are you going, Satan? Well, I'm going up to and fro. In verse 3, the Lord said unto Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There's none like him on the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and hates evil, and he still holds fast his integrity, although thou moved against me against him to destroy him without cause. God is saying, now I did it. I did do it. Job said God did. Now he's saying I did it. And Satan answered, the Lord said, skin for skin, all that a man has. He will give for his life. Put forth thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, and there you go again. God is saying again, okay, I'm going to put some more line out there. You know, and God is God is calling the shots. Don't ever think that this is the devil. God is calling the shots here. He's in total control in this whole situation here. He's wanting to bring Job further into perfection. I believe Job had in his heart, Lord, I want to be like you. I want to be like you. I want to be like you. You have to have this in your heart, Christian, your number one main goal. If you ask 10 Christians, what's your number one main goal, Christian? Save souls. What's your number one? Missions trips. What's your ministry, preaching and teaching? What's yours? Whatever. The answer is Christ. To live as Christ. And all them things, I told you before, I sought the things of God, for years, the things of God. But as I followed Him, and He opened my eyes at the same thing, and as I began to be tweaked, and I began to seek the God of the things. And when I sought the God of the things, He gave me the things of God. Preaching, teaching, witnessing, leading people to Christ and all. Why do we want second best? Follow me and I'll make you catch fish. The focus was never the fish. It's following Him. Hebrews, consider Him. We see Jesus. Looking on the Jesus means taking your gaze off one thing and putting on another. I see Jesus. I only do the things that, please Him. You're following Him. Looking unto Him. So here we go here again. So he wastes no time to strike him with boils from head to toe. It's in now verse 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils. Well, who gave him the boils? Be careful now before you answer. Who gave Paul the thorn? When he was seeing all these great revelations and insight, that man isn't... Wow. Where did that thorn originate? Wouldn't Satan want you to be proud? Wow. He wouldn't want to see you be humbled with a thorn. God uses him. God sent that. Because you see, when Paul rebuked, he didn't rebuke the devil 3 times. He besought the Lord 3 times. Lord, Paul knew something. See, we got to learn. We got to, the pure in heart see God where in everything, in every circumstance, every situation, seeing God in it. What's God after? He's after bringing us on to perfection. Sometimes we can be so little sometimes. When your voice is changing, we're little. You ever mark your kids growing up? You got Christians 40 years old. We're still little babies. They're not seeking Christ, number one. They're loving themselves. I remember talking with Paul Moore, Pastor Paul Moore, man I love dearly. I said, spiritual maturity doesn't come by physical years only. Spiritual maturity comes by a certain path, a certain walk. Virtuous woman just doesn't happen overnight. There's a certain path. You've got to love the Lord. Walk in this. Seeking Him while He may be found. In other words, it sounds like there's times He might not be found. Seek Him while He might be found. So he, not only this here, but I mean, he's scraping himself. I mean, he boils. I guess he get worms in him. I mean, he's scraping. I mean, he's all this ugly here. His wife comes along, verse 9, and then I'm glad the author here gives her grace here, and I'm glad Paul gives her grace here. I didn't see this until recently. He never says she's a foolish woman. He never says that. His wife says to him, curse God and die. Are you going to retain your integrity? Now he's seen it, he knows, she knows her husband. He loved the Lord. He's went through all this, lost everything outwardly. He's sick. He's got all these boils on, and she says, curse God and die. Why is she still alive? In round 1, didn't God give permission that Satan could wipe everything out? Satan's got a good memory. You remember how he severed Adam? How did he get into Adam? Through his life. I believe that was a day after day thing. Day after day, day after day. He left her standing. That was his trump card. Oh, he may miss all this, but they left his wife standing. Go ahead. Satan left her standing. That was his trump card. You know how Job responds to her in verse 10? But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish woman. He didn't call her a foolish woman. He said, you speak like a foolish woman. Never take somebody that's going through a trial, don't pay too much attention to the words. Like in chapter 6 of Job, let them be words for the wind. Let them go. You know, when someone's in a fiery trial, just let them words go. You know, they'll talk better another day. You speak as one of the foolish women. What? Shall we receive good from the hand of God and not evil? In all this, Job didn't sin with his lips. And I believe this is where, when this takes place here, I believe all heaven, millions of angels, I can see it, Tony, you know, millions of angels are standing up and they're saying, Blessed be the God of Job. Blessed be the God of Job. Right at that moment there, you know. And you never hear anything about Satan in the rest of the book. Blessed be the God of Job. We don't elevate Job. We elevate the work God allowed him to do in Job. We elevate God. The work that God did. In Job, we won't take time to read, but Job chapter 19, I think it is. 19, he says, oh, if I had a pen, I wish this could be written down, this story, you know, what I'm going through. I believe this, I wish this could be in a book wrote down. It's in chapter, if you're taking notes, Job 19, 23 through 26. Job says, oh, if I had a pen, I'd write this down. And God says, that's a good idea, Job. That's a good idea. We're going to put that in a book, and you're going to find encouragement down through history. And there was a man by the name of I think you mentioned that last time you sang, Horatio Spafford, a modern-day Job. Chicago lawyer, you know the story, lost his son, his only son, to tuberculosis. Chicago fire came through, destroyed a lot of his assets. You know, he was supposed to go on a ship liner vacation over to one of the other ministers. Sent 4 of his daughters and his wife ahead because his lawyer business kept him behind. And somehow it hit another line or something over, you know, in the middle of the ocean, whatever it was, and they all went down. They died, all 4 of them. She was saved alone, the wife. And, you know, he penned the words, whatever my lot, you've taught me to say, it is well with my soul. I find no fault in him. He's been good to me. I find no fault in my Heavenly Father. He's brought nothing good in my life. He give, He taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He has been good. Whatever my lot. Though Satan should buffet and trials shall come, let this blessed assurance control that Christ is regarded my helpless escape. You know, it is well with my soul. Is it well with your soul? Are you loving Him tonight? Are you loving Him tomorrow and the next day and the next day? Are you loving yourself? Don't go to the end of your life and just say, well, just kind of going through the motions. I don't want to go through the motions. And I haven't done it all well. I have failed over the years, but failure's only failure when you quit. Failure's been a good teacher, you know. But failure if you end up in the Lord's arms. Satan puts his tail between his legs here. You know, he's done. And by the way, in case you don't think that God sent this evil on him, let's look at Job 42. And I know we're not going to go all the way through Job, but Job 42. In case there's any question, you know, I mean, there's so much we can talk about Job here. I mean, it's a field. Job 42:11. Then came unto him all his brother and his sisters and all that had been an acquaintance before. They ate bread with him in the house, and they bemoaned him, comforted him over all the evil that the Lord hath brought upon him. Every man also gave a piece of money, and every one an earring of gold. I had this a couple of semesters ago, and I asked the students a couple of years ago to write a letter, something that maybe Job would say to his great-grandsons or his grandsons, as he would tell them, reflecting back at this time here. What was it like? You know, what he went through. And I imagine he'd say, man, it was tough, difficult. But the Lord was my stay. You know, He was steadfast. He was with me. And what He's worked in me, it's amazing what He's worked in me. Can I share that another story about that Jehovah's Witness? For years, this is just one of the small things He's worked in me the last couple of years. Jehovah's Witness would come to my door and I'd hide myself, and when they went away, it was just my demeanor, my heart attitude. And maybe I'm good at acting, but when they would go away, I'm here, and they're there. They're unbelievers. They're Jehovah's Witnesses. So one of the nuggets that the Lord gave me the last couple of years going through the fire is I was out painting the house last summer, and one stopped in my backyard there, and he come up and he started, I might take some of his literature next time. Not to read it, but to give an inroad into his heart maybe. I don't know. Maybe the Lord might tell me to take his literature. Not to read it, or not to pass out. You understand what I'm saying? Oh no, But he come up to me and he started, saying some things, and I opened up my mouth and started to say some things, and he was affected. He was touched. I went in the room. His name's Phil, and I said, "Let's pray for him, Fred. Let's go and pray for this guy." But for the first time, when he got in his truck, the Lord showed me that I didn't look down on him. You don't look down on anybody. Do you look down on them guys that say the cuss word a lot, drink, and them neighbors are, Christian? That's nowhere in Scripture. The other two that go to the temple, they're, "Thank you, Lord, I'm not like this sinner over here." And the other one just beat his breast, "Lord, have mercy, I need you." Being a Christian doesn't mean you're better than anybody else. I mean, if you understand what I'm saying. We're winding down. What I like about this too is another truth that God's given me in the last year. Job saw the first cause. And, I was talking with Jim and Maureen about that different times. But, the first cause. Many times for years I looked at the second cause. You hear this analogy, you may get tired of it. But I don't recommend this, but if you smack a dog with a stick and the dog bites the stick, the dog will be wise to look to the owner of the stick. The stick is the second cause. So it's, I lost my job in the mill. Oh, that J&L, when it left, the LTV hands, and there's a truth in that, but God closed that place. God closed that place. And I didn't see this back then. I'm just sharing some things I'm learning. And I told the guys at the American Airlines, I won't say U.S. Air, but if that place closes down, don't blame the higher-ups, the American. If that closes, God's allowed it. God's in total control. You look in Scripture, I thought for years that, who put God on the cross? The Romans, the wicked religious leaders. You read in Acts 2:23, God in His foreknowledge. It was ordained from the beginning that He was to go to the cross. He used the wickedness of their hearts now. Now Joseph. Who put Joseph in the pit? Who sent him all that? God did. He says in Genesis 45. I like my one granddaughter comes over and he hasn't done it for a while, but we said, who made the sun and the, nice day out there? God did. Who made the green grass out there? God did. Who made this? God did. God, we can learn from a 2.5, 3-year-old child. God did. Job says, you meant it for evil, but God meant this for good. See, the brothers were the second cause there. How about Shimei with David? David's going alongside there. Shimei's kicking dirt. He was of the family of Saul, throwing stones. He was a madman. And David's right-hand man's looking at the second cause and said, let me take a dead dog's head off. And David says, no. God's in this thing. God's in this thing. He's going to reward me good for what I'm receiving here. David saw God in that. How about in the garden there when they're coming to get Jesus and Peter pulls a sword out? He was going, by the way, he was going for the head. It's not in Scripture, that's my interpretation. And when he went to whack it, that guy moved over here and whacked an ear. He was going for the head, I believe. And he said, Peter, put that back in there. Shall I not drink the cup that the Father's given me? So Peter's seeing the enemy here. Jesus seeing, his Father's in total control. Don't you know I got control over you? Jesus said, the only control you have is what my Father's giving you. Jesus lived his whole life. All that comes to me comes by way of the Father. Every good and perfect gift comes from above. Don't err, brother. Oh, that's a new car. That's a new... Well, that may be. But that whole thing's talking about trials there, James. Trials come from God. No pain, no gain. We're going to, Job went through tribulation, but he came into some real riches. It said he died old and full of days, or old and full of God. The riches that he had, that God had placed in him. What about First Samuel? We won't take the time to look at that, but please, next time you look, 1 Samuel, we find a story of Hannah. The guy by the name of Elkanah, it's strange because he's a godly man, and yet he's got two wives here. And I believe he's got one of devotion, he's got one of desperation. He loved Hannah. It was number one. He loved Hannah, but she wasn't having any kids. And he's looking at his time clock, and he's looking around, and he gets Penina, and she just looks, and she's pregnant. I mean, boom, she's popping out kids left and right, and she's rubbing it in. She is rubbing it in. Hannah, don't you think he looks like a daddy? And she was relentless. Shoving it into her, just over and over for years. I don't know how long this went on. Over and over. Penina. Driving this on her. Just talking about her and just bringing her to tears. And nowhere in the scriptures it says she's complaining to anybody. She took her complaints to God. Isn't that interesting? What a friend we have in Jesus. She carries. He is able. I was thinking that I know He's able to carry me through. You know God is able. You know that He won't, I don't believe He'll ever take you through anything that He doesn't put in you ahead of time to get through it. First, in Corinthians, I think it's 1 Corinthians 10. No trial. That God don't give you a way of escape. He delivers you. He'll carry you through. He is able. He is able. He is able. I know the Lord is able to carry me through. He'll put it in ahead of time. I want to forewarn you so you can be forearmed. My people are destroyed without knowledge. My people are destroyed because without knowledge. I want to give you some in the know. It used to be a channel on 13 in the know. Paul says knowing this, in the know, knowing trials works patience. I want to give you some insight. So next time you go through things, you're not in Penina was not the. You might say Penina was the cause of her problem. Oh no. Finish reading that first chapter of Samuel. When you look at it, that's your homework before bed. It said God shut the womb twice. God shut the womb. Who was the first cause there? God was. And He's working to work there, and He's waiting for, like the refiner, looking in the fire, they're waiting for, not degree too hot, not, just perfectly. And He knows what He's doing. And I believe, whatever happened there, she said, Lord, whatever if you give me kids are yours. He was working such a work in her. It was like a microwave oven going off. And the Lord, they thought she was drunk in the temple there. You know how the story, she became pregnant and had a child. Can anybody name one of Penina's children? Can anybody name any exploits that any of them did? All 10, 12, whatever they were? Ever hear about a boy by the name of Samuel? See, God's ways are so much higher than our ways. We're limited. We can't see. It's where faith. Trust in Him. Penina was the cause. No, it wasn't. God was working in that. All things together for good. It was working in good in her. No pain, no gain. She went through year after year. She went through suffering. And I'm telling you from that story there, my mind can just run. I could go on, things she would say. I want you to be the first to know, Hannah. I'm pregnant again. And just, just pain and heartache. But it was working for good because she kept looking to the Lord. He's a good one to take your complaints to. How about us? Do we see the first cause or do we see the second cause? Job says, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Though he slay me, yet I will trust him. So whom the Lord loveth, he chastens. Every Christian that bears fruit, he wants to prune. And God will use anything and everything. And what the Lord gave me to share my daughter's funeral was from the Lord. God will not protect you from anything that's going to help make you more like Jesus. Let me say that again. God will not protect you from anything that's going to help make you more like Jesus. No, where do you get that at? Psalm 84. No good thing will he withhold from those who walk as upright. No good thing. What good thing are you going to give me? We relate this after the natural. Good, good, good. That good is what he deems to be good. And I hope you don't mind me. Sometimes I overlap and sometimes I say it, but Paul didn't apologize. He said, I don't apologize for saying the same things over again because that's how you learn. Over and over and over. The Spirit of God just is going out there and just the way he does. But I believe the Lord's in this ministry. There's no doubt about it. The Lord is in this. He's in His Word. Nothing fancy. We're going to break the bread open here. And it's, watch Him work. It's almost like you're sitting back watching Him. I mean, it's, get out of the way. That Jesus be seen. And I like what Mike said. That as we elevate Christ, He draws all men to Himself. But Michelle, you want to sing that?